Hey there YouTube world, Matt Schwartz the Welding Geek here. It's part 2 time. Details. So if you want to see how I went about doing the ear caps and all these back little details, stay tuned to the video. Detail time. This is the back vent. As you can see, I already got my templates pasted down, kind of got the straights sheared out, and a bunch of little holes in these little gaps already cut out. Right now what I'm doing is filing them out to make them nice and straight. Punching all of those holes makes a bunch of little nibble marks in there, so I'm just using a file to straighten those out on the top here. Now what I'm going to do is take my center punch, and you can see these little cross hatches in the corners. This is going to indicate where I'm going to overlap them. It's just an easy way to see it after I peel the plastic off. So I'm going to center punch all these out and then go ahead and get all these little pieces sheared out. And then it's time to tack them all together. And I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now that I have my pieces all tacked together, I'm going to take it over to my arbor press here. And I have a big chunk of solid aluminum. And I'm going to go ahead and just press this. This is a urethane die. And just going to put a little curve into it so it'll fit into the helmet the way it should. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut out the back section here. I'm just going to lay out some lines, use my cutoff wheel, cut out the section these little vents fit into. And now I'm going to go ahead and tack my little vent in here. Next up are the lower part of the ear caps. I'm cutting these out a 1/2 inch solid. I'm going to go ahead and drill out a hole in the bottom section, and then I'll go ahead and take it over to the bandsaw and get all these little sections cut out. You can see the holes I'm putting in here. Now it's time to get everything cut out on the bandsaw. I'm more or less going to just basically trying to relieve the parts out of this 1/2 inch thick aluminum plate. There'd be a lot of cutting on the bandsaw, relieving parts, and then taking it over to the belt sander and just trying to get the shape of this lower ear cap. There's a lot of work in here, so let's just sit back and enjoy getting all the stuff cut out. Alright, this is what the piece looks like after the bandsaw. Now I'm going to clean it up here on the belt sander. I'm only going to get it cleaned up. I'm going to put in an extra little angle grind in the back section. So that's what I'm going to do right here. You can see here the little angle that I was putting on there. Now I'm going to go over to my TIG welder. I'm going to build up a bead of weld on the very end of this thing, and then I'm going to actually grind and shape another angled feature on this part. That I didn't have enough material with the 1/2 inch plate, so I'm just building up another 1/4 inch little step on the bottom. That's going to be this little angled piece for the bottom of the ear cap. Really hard to explain, but hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm trying to accomplish here. Working through here. You can see the weld was built up there, and now I'm going to grind it and shape it into the shape that I need it to be. And just like that, I got my little piece. Man, TIG welders are handy, aren't they? Time to work through the top of the ear cap here. I got my templates that are available at Patreon, like I said a billion times before. These are actually the same top ear caps that I used on my Dinjarin helmet. They're very, very similar. I don't think they're exact, but they're close enough for what I'm trying to accomplish with this helmet. So I'm going to get everything glued down, paste it onto my material, and get my cross hatches all center punched out. Take it over to my index punch, my rotary index punch, and get all these little holes punched out, and just work from there. Now it's time to clean up the horseshoe sections of the top ear cap, and I'm just going to use this die grinder here to get out the little nibble marks first part, and then I'll probably do some filing as well. I'm just trying to smooth this out before I relieve the rest of the part out of the aluminum. And I'm doing this cleanup part now before I cut the rest of it out, just because it's far easier to handle than if I had cut everything out and trying to work with that really small piece in your hand. So just trying to get the fine details smoothed out in the bigger piece before I get the rest of it cut out. That's done. Time to cut the rest of the part out on the bandsaw. Now it's time to form these ear caps, and I made a special little buck, like this is what's called a buck or a dolly. A couple parts that I can clamp together, and it just makes it easier to hammer these pieces, the little edges around. and this is the same one that I used on the Mando helmet, like I said. And just forming these upper ear caps around this piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that accomplished. Now I'm going to go ahead and get these two pieces welded together, and I'm clamping it inside my little hammer buck here to act as a heat sink again, because that top edge is so thin it's really hard to weld. The buck will act as a heat sink, grab a lot of the heat, and actually make the aluminum think it's thicker than what it is. It just makes this top seam a lot easier to weld. After I'm done welding now, I'm going to go ahead and get these dressed down to make them look nice and smooth and as one piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and get these center sections cut out on the bandsaw. These are the little pieces that will go on the inside of those ear caps I just made. What I'm going to do is part them out here on the bandsaw, take them over to the belt grinder, and do the rest of the shaping on the belt sander. Get them smoothed out and shaped into the shape they need to be. This part here is actually the upper part of the lower ear cap. Needed some other bevels in there, so I went ahead and got those ground in. Now I'm going to go ahead and weld together the lower ear cap, the top section to the bottom section, and then get them smoothed out to look like one piece. This little piece of aluminum here, I'm going to go ahead and weld in the little upper U section of the lower ear cap. And this just makes a little ramp, a little detail in that upper section. And it gets welded in and it will get dressed down as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and tack in the center section of the upper ear cap to the outer section of the upper ear cap. Now that I have the lower section and the upper section complete, I'm going to go ahead and get them welded to the helmet. I'm just going to use a couple 1/2-inch holes to tack from the back side to attach these. So I'm going to go ahead and get those tacked into place. Alright, got the ear cap on the left hand side on. The right hand side has the rangefinder on it, so I need to go ahead and get that fabbed up. So this is going to be the first part of that. This is the top section, the top shroud of the ear cap, and I'm going to use the apron brake here and get these things bent up. Alright, as you can see, I couldn't get the bends all the way on a couple of these parts, so I'm going to go ahead and use a little flange pliers here to bend part of it, and then I'm also going to use a little a die section for our brake. I'm just going to clamp this in a vise and use a mallet to bend over the other two last sections here. Alright, as you can see here, this is the inner section of the rangefinder. I'm going to go ahead, I already got it cut out on the bandsaw, and I'm going to go ahead and grind this to fit to the inside of the shroud here. And I also have the stem cut out from the bandsaw. I'm going to go ahead and get it smoothed up and ground too. I kind of figured you'd already seen enough of the bandsaw, so I went ahead and got these things cut out, and now I'm just going to shape them and smooth them out here at the belt grinder, just like that. Here is the intersection and the stem section. I'm going to go ahead and weld these together and then put the shroud over the top of those. Before I put this shroud section over the top of the ear stem there, the rangefinder stem, I have to go ahead and get it all welded up and dressed off smooth. Before I go ahead and weld this shroud onto the stem here, I'm put a bunch of lightning holes in this big chunk of aluminum because it was pretty heavy. But now I'm going to go ahead and get it fit and then get it all welded together, and then I'll also have to smooth out the welds that I use to weld the shroud to the stem. Alright, the rangefinder is all smoothed out and dressed down. Now I have one last step on it, and it's to press fit this PEM stud into this 3/16 hole that I have that's going to bolt to the side of the helmet. So the side of my helmet wasn't exactly straight, and I wanted the rangefinder to be able to swivel down nice and straight. So you can see this hole that this part of a hole in the top section that I'm welding on right now, and this makes it so that section where the rangefinder is going to pivot is nice and straight. So with my ear caps, there needs to be a little slot on the front, so I'm going ahead and cutting that in here so I can actually fit the top ear cap onto this side of the helmet. Alright, now it's time to get the center section tacked into place to the outer upper ear cap, and then actually get the upper ear cap welded into place over top of the rangefinder stem. Alright, our ear caps are attached. The next part I have to do is this little raised section in the back of the helmet. I don't know what it's called. So I got my pieces cut out here. I'm going to go ahead and put a little kick on them here on the apron brake. And this little leg I'm going to take over to the shrinker and put a little shrink in it so it kind of grabs it and puts a little radius in it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So putting these details onto the helmet were pretty complicated. Had a lot of figuring out to do because of how the helmet is formed. It's a complex curve and I have to fit these pieces around that complex curve. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to put a radius in it down this way and also a radius in it that way just to get me started around the helmet. And then I'm going to go ahead and anneal these two pieces to get them as soft as I can. So when I go to fit them onto the helmet, I can use a mallet and get them to form and fit perfectly to the helmet because it's a very complex shape. Alright, so how I'm going to attach these two detail pieces, I'm going to put 2 3/8 holes in them and then go ahead and do what's called a rosette weld, and you're just filling this hole with weld against the helmet. I'm going to go ahead and use a pair of vice grips and get these clamped down, and then also hammer, try to get a final fit with the hammer around the edge of the helmet here. Then I'm going to go ahead and tack weld one in, or get them welded in, and then use the hammer again just to get this thing nice and flat against this helmet. This was a really hard piece to do to get to fit to this curve. So yeah, it took me a little bit to figure out, but it finally ended up fitting really nicely. And then there's this back strip that goes around the back of the helmet that attaches those two pieces. And so I figured out I needed to shrink it. You can see it, there's a curve in it to be able to fit around that helmet. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same process and put the 3/8 holes in and then form it around the back of the helmet by putting a little slip roll in it and then clamping it down. And then I'm going to actually go ahead and anneal this piece while it's on the helmet and then final fit with the mallet and the body hammer. Sorry, that's a lot right there. So anyway. I did it! I got it to fit. Next up is I gotta metal finish all the welds off and make it look like it's all one piece. This next section, the camera kind of focuses and unfocuses. It kind of stinks. I'm sorry for that. But anyway, it's just dressing these welds off and getting it smoothed out. And then the last thing will be to get it sandblasted to make it look like one cohesive piece. And that will be it for this part of the helmet build. love how the sandblasting makes this look so just finished, you know. Just makes it look nice and uniform. All right, details. Done. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. The next video I'll do will be on the paint scheme. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you're interested in the templates, they're at my Patreon page, The Welding Geek. I'll have the link in the description if you want to attempt to make your own. Right now I've got a lot of people asking if I do commissions or if I'd make these to sell. I am currently not doing that. I don't have the time. Each one of these builds takes weeks for me to do because I'm doing them on my lunch hours and a little bit after work. So I simply just don't have the time to do commission work and to do my YouTube channel and all the other stuff I'm doing. But if you want to try to attempt your own, the templates are available over at my Patreon account. And if you want to support me, you can do it that way. There's also there's the template tier, $5 tier, and there's the giveaway tier, which is a $10 tier, and that will give you access to like when I'm making the Mandalorian's rifle right now, and I've said that I'm going to be giving away to that tier in my Patreon page. So builds that I do, some of those I will be giving away to that tier. So you can head on over there if you're interested in that stuff. Yeah, like I said, the rifle, I'll probably have 3 or 4 videos on that rifle build coming up after I'm finished with this Bo Katan helmet. And then what's after that, man? I have lots of stuff that I want to work on. There's so much new content in the Mandalorian, and it, yeah, every time I like, oh, maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should start to do that Fallout armor. So, but man, I'm just in love with the Mandalorian show. The season finale just aired as I'm shooting this video yesterday, and oh my word, I couldn't be happier with how they ended that. I'm not going to say anything because if you haven't seen it, but I couldn't be happier. I'm just super happy Star Wars is back. Anyway, yeah, I don't know what else to say. That was a lot of fun build. I know there's not a visor in here yet. There's a whole video on how I put my visors in if you want to check that out. I just haven't got around to putting one in this quite yet. So yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. Yeah, my name is Matt Schwartz. I'm the Welding Geek. Stay tuned for more.